Hey y'all, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about the concept of low risk takedowns. Low risk takedowns, by my definition, the way that I define it, the way I like to look at it is if I miss the takedown, so if I go for a takedown and I attempt it, do I end up in the same position or better? If I can answer those two questions, or that simple question, then to me, in my opinion, it's a low risk takedown, right? So for instance, right, let's look at like if Mike and I were just in a basic half collar tie, kind of working back and forth here. If I snap Mike, if I kind of like lean into him and I feel his pressure and I take a little stop back, boom, and I snap him, if I hit the snap down, if I'm able to shove him nose over toes and get him down to the floor, then awesome. I get my takedown. I at least get to go over the top. You're not going to get points, for a basic snap down necessarily in a competition, but from a self-defense perspective or a dominance perspective, I'm on top. That's awesome. What happens if I miss a snap down, right? Well, I push into Mike, he pushes back into me, and I step and I snap, and Mike stays in the same exact position, and I stay in the same exact position. That's like the epitome of a low-risk takedown, right? So if I miss the takedown, am I in the same position or better, right? That's generally the way that I like to look at it. An instance of, can I hit this and maybe get to a better position? Maybe something like, I'm working a front side 2-on-1, whether it's from like our KCC or self-defense system, or even in grappling, right? Like I work myself into here and I'm holding on if he's got a gi on, or if I'm working arm drags or whatever, and I snap or I drag him to the floor from here. Well, if I go down, boom, let's say he touches the floor, but he automatically starts getting back up. But as he gets back up, I can get myself around the corner to behind his elbow and potentially to work his way to his back. Well, I missed the takedown theoretically, but I got myself to a better position, right? So if I miss the takedown, do I end up in a same position or in the same position or better? For me, that's the way I like to look at takedowns and what am I getting done? What's the context of the situation? So if we're looking at self-defense, in my opinion, we should always be hitting if you're going to do takedowns, you should be favoring takedowns that have the lowest risk. I'm not giving anything up to hit a takedown, right? So I love double legs. However, if I go to shoot a double and I miss it and he sprawls out real hard and heavy, boof, and now he's on top, yeah, maybe I have the wrestling skills to get to a different position or escape that position. However, I gave up a neutral position or the position I was in an attempt to hit a takedown. Now, if you're good at double leg takedowns, it's fine. That's not to say in self-defense you can't utilize those takedowns. However, I like to just simply weigh it on that scale. What's the risk of this? Now, in self-defense, that's usually why I favor, snaps, drags. If we're on the back, basically just sitting people down, maybe even just like little simple trips and things like that. Because for the most part, I can keep my balance, I can keep my base, I can end up on top, and I don't give anything up. If I'm doing grappling and it's in training, well, that's completely different. Self-defense, if I get into a worse position, then hell, I'm in a bad spot, and that could actually be the end of my life or something bad can happen. If I do it in competition, maybe I lose position, I lose on points, or I get submitted. In training, like who gives a hell? So my scale of like how risky will I get with takedowns needs, in my opinion, should be weighed up against what's the context of the situation that goes into it. So low risk takedowns, basic definition, right? If I miss the takedown, am I in the same position or better? Otherwise, I need to start looking at my risk assessment. What does that look like? How bad is the next position that I might find myself in, and go from there? And then has that match my context? That's why, again, and from a self-defense perspective, I'm a huge fan of ripping people's heads to the ground, tripping them backwards, dumping them, and things where even if I mess the positions up, I can either work myself to a higher position, or worst comes to worst, we're in the same spot we were in before, right? And best case scenario, I hit the takedown, I'm in a better spot anyway, right? So basic theory, a concept, something to play around with and assess. What's your goal? And then what's the risk assessment for the takedown? And in self-defense, that risk assessment should be real freaking low unless it's a Hail Mary case, right? So play around with it, have some fun. We'll see you guys next time.